Hey, welcome back, subscribers, to My World of Stocks, and welcome back to our Budget Community Portfolio series, this time for the month of October 2025. And chapters are down below for you in case you need to skip past this intro. But for anyone new here, this is not my larger private portfolio. I'm actually planning to do an update video for that one finally. I believe this month I'm going to try to do that, so make sure you're subscribed. You won't want to miss it. But rather, this series is for the smaller on a budget public one where I only deposit $100 each month into this new account, and then I use that money to invest in stocks, some of which is also influenced by you guys through various polls, comments, and messages that you send me, especially on Discord. And then I do an update video once a month here on YouTube, separated into two parts. First, covering how the portfolio is performing so far with all the trades we made last month in September, which, by the way, this past month we actually added a brand new stock to the portfolio. So we'll talk a little bit about that too. It's going to be pretty interesting. But then after that, we'll also follow it immediately with part two, where I will then cover how each individual stock is performing so far, either up or down, and what I plan to buy in this current month of October. Before we start, though, just a little bit of housekeeping. If you'd like to get full access to this portfolio, as well as our private community Discord, where you can reach me, hang out with other members, and even get access to my daily stock trade where I post a new stock purchase every single day, then you can get access to all of that and other perks too by supporting me on Patreon. Link is in the description. And thank you to everyone that does join the community and support the channel this way, because I really couldn't do this without you. And I'm trying to build it up into a much larger community too over time. So I would really appreciate it if you do consider that. And again, thank you for all that support. Lastly, though, just a heads up, we do use SoFi for this account, which I'm a very big fan of. It's completely free to use with fractional shares, no fees, and it can even do a lot more than that too, like creating a Roth IRA account completely for free too. Plus, if you use my referral link down in the description, you can even get a bonus $25 worth of stocks just for giving it a try. So I do highly recommend you sign up if you haven't already. Again, it's completely free to do so, and link is down in the description. But with all of that out of the way, let's go ahead and jump into part one now, and let's take a look at how the portfolio is holding up so far and all the moves we made last month in September. Okay, well, looking back at it here, September was yet another great month for us, with the account climbing around 3.5% during that time. So just another very strong month for us in the market. And it now brings us up to nearly $3,400 after only having it for less than 2 years. That's a net gain of around 35%, which is absolutely incredible. I couldn't be happier about it so far. Having said that, though, we actually hold close to $400 just in cash. So when you exclude that cash amount, our actual stock investments are up even more at over a 41% profit. So it's even more impressive. I really can't believe just how well this portfolio is doing so far. And by the way, if you haven't already joined us, you might want to consider starting to follow along with us here on this portfolio, because I mean, really just look at how easily we've already accumulated thousands of dollars in a stock portfolio with only investing around $100 each month. It's such a small little cost that over time can actually turn into something substantial. And of course, you can always invest much more than that if you'd like to. I just limit it to $100 so that literally anyone can join us, because it's at such a tiny little budget like this that it's very affordable for everyone. But think if you were to invest like around $1,000 each month, well, you would now have 10 times this amount. You could be, at around $30,000 to $40,000 of an account already. So there's really a lot of power in investing, even if it's by small amounts. Over time, I always say time is really going to be your strongest asset when you're investing. So you got to make use of it. Don't let time run out. Don't wait until you're really old to then start investing. Start investing now at whatever age you're at. Just get on it. Anyway, having said that, in terms of spending, we finally stuck to the budget this past month, only spending $90. Whereas ever since the tariff drop in the market back in April, I've been overspending every month, making use of the cash reserves because I just saw so many deals out there in the market, which I still do, by the way. I still think there are a ton of great stocks out there at great prices if you just kind of know where to look. But it's just not quite as big of deals, I would say, as we saw earlier in the year, with the market now, of course, breaking new record highs, all the time, basically. But still, like I said, I did spend just $90 last month. So let's take a look at which stocks that included. And as always, I did run a few polls just to see if there was anything that you guys wanted me to buy more of too, including this one here on Discord, where I actually decided to add a brand new stock to the portfolio. And so I asked you guys, which one of these would you like to see added out of these 10 choices here? To which we actually had a rare three-way tie, and it was between Stanley Black & Decker, who was paying a 4.5% dividend to, Federal Realty, who was also paying about the same size dividend, and then Broadcom, who does actually pay a dividend, but it's so tiny that I really don't consider that as part of the investment. It's more so just kind of a growth tech stock that has been on fire lately too. But yeah, because it was a tie, I was forced to make an executive decision here. I am, of course, the portfolio manager, and I ultimately decided to just go with Federal Realty, ticker symbol FRT, which happens to be a REIT, a real estate investment trust. And if you guys have been watching pretty much any of my videos lately, you know that REITs are definitely an area where I actually see some of the most value still in the market. I really think that investors are kind of sleeping on them, especially with interest rates now finally starting to come down. We'll talk a little bit more about that here in just a second in part two, when I talk about other stocks that I'm looking to buy in the upcoming months. But yeah, Federal Realty just looks like a great value right now. And I'm actually thinking about just doing a whole separate video on them probably this upcoming week. Let me know if you'd like to see that. I think I probably will do that. So make sure you're subscribed, hit that notification bell so you're alerted when that drops. But yeah, we do have to talk about it. There's a lot I want to say about them because I think it's at an incredible value right now. Really solid dividend. Well, actually, one of the best dividends out there, in my opinion. And yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun to talk about them. So you won't want to miss that. But apart from that, though, I did also run this poll here over on Patreon, where I asked you guys which of our big dividend paying stocks should we add more of, to which Extra Space Storage took the win, just barely over Tyson Foods, Duke Energy, and Vici Properties, all of which, by the way, I really like a lot right now. But EXR did take the win here, and it's really one of my favorite REITs in the market, so I would not complain at all about them taking the win there. Even though, like I said, I do like the other ones a lot too, but I did go ahead and purchase more EXR stock. And then finally, over on YouTube, I asked you guys, which of these four tech giants should I buy more of in the portfolio? To which a whopping 47% of the votes went to Amazon, which was well above Google at 29% of the votes, Meta at 13%, and Microsoft at just 10%. So I added more Amazon stock to the portfolio, which I was actually happy to see them as the winner because I probably would have chosen them right now too, just based on how incredibly dominant of a company this is and how I still think they're a little bit slept on, at least out of all the big tech stocks out there. Amazon is probably my favorite at the moment. It's very close, I would say, with Google. But in total, I did spend the most amount of money on Extra Space Storage during the month, which, by the way, that was actually the biggest purchase of the month prior to. And it's because EXR is, again, one of my absolute favorite REITs in the market, but it was actually going through a pretty good sized dip recently. And there were even a few times where we were actually negative on it in the portfolio. We are back to being positive again, just slightly. I think we're like neutral on it. I'll show you in just a second in part two. But the point being that it was already one of my favorite stocks, and then it was going through a dip. And I told you guys, I said this in last month's video too, this has to be the stock that we're buying the most of right now because it's at an incredible value. So I'll talk a little bit more about that here in just a second. But after that, I did spend another $15 each on American Tower and Amazon, which, like EXR, AMT is another big dividend paying REIT that is very undervalued in my opinion right now, and they have a lot of future potential, especially with data centers and other stuff too that they're actively investing in. But The same goes for Federal Realty, which is another REIT, of course. I spent around $10 on them, as well as another $10 on Pfizer and Tyson Foods, both of them also at incredible values with big dividends. Pfizer, by the way, we had actually been negative on for the longest time, but as I'll show you in just a second, it finally started to take off this past month, and we're now actually positive on that position, which is very exciting to see. And I'll show you here in just a second when we transition over to part two, just how we're doing on it. But then after that, I just spent another $5 on Duke Energy, who remains probably my overall favorite energy stock in the market in terms of both quality, the good valuation and dividend, as well as also some future potential with new investments into nuclear energy for the longer term. But yeah, okay, with all of that out of the way though, let's jump into the good stuff here. Let's move on to part two, take a closer look at how each of these individual stocks are performing so far. We'll analyze their performance, and I'll talk a little bit more about what I'm looking to buy here in this current month of October and going later out into the end of the year. Okay, so here's all the holdings from the SoFi account, but I do break these down into custom charts so that it's easier to see for you. But I do also post everything on Discord if you want to take a closer look at any of this later. But as usual, I typically try to hold around half of the portfolio in just around 7 stocks alone, which are currently Google, still at number 1 with 12% of it, while Palantir is the only other holding in the double digits at 10%, followed by Amazon and SoFi at 7% each, then Extra Space Storage with 6%, and Microsoft and Pfizer at around 5% each to round it off there, which for now, I'm pretty happy with those leaders near the top. I think it's a good mixture of size, strength, value, growth, and even some dividends too from like EXR and Pfizer. I also really like though what I would call our mid-core kind of stocks, which is this group here, holdings that are at around 3 and 4% each, like PepsiCo, Tyson Foods, C3, Nvidia, Verizon, Medtronic, and Vici Properties. That's similar to our large core, where it's a great mixture of, again, value, growth, dividends, a lot of stuff like that. Just good diversity, in my opinion, there. And then the small core section is basically everything else, of which I would say there's probably 5 stocks that I'm looking specifically to add more of in the coming months, small positions that I would like to grow into much larger ones. And that would be not only Federal Realty, obviously being our newest addition to the portfolio and only worth less than 1% at the moment, got to be buying more of them, but also Scotts Miracle-Gro, an industry leader with a great valuation and dividend. Realty Income, a similar REIT to Federal, but more holdings and just a little different in their approach. American Tower, another great REIT on business strength as well as value and dividends. And then Bristol Myers Squibb, which is similar to Pfizer in terms of value and dividends too. We'll dig deeper into these stocks though when looking at the percentage that we're either up or down on each one, but just taking a broader view first, you can see that the vast majority of our stocks continue to perform extremely well for us. And zooming into the double digit and above gainers first here, it continues to be Palantir that far and away is our best performer at close to 500% gains, with also SoFi, Tesla, and Alibaba breaking north of triple digits too, which I believe this is the first time that we've ever had 4 different stocks above the triple digit mark. And so I'm super happy to see that. Alibaba, by the way, a Chinese stock that I probably got the most negative comments on every time, I talked about them on YouTube. And I'm not saying this to brag or anything, but I just think it's kind of cool, I guess, that, so many people were leaving somewhat mean comments about it, even towards me personally at times, for buying Chinese stocks. And yet you look at them now, Alibaba, we're up over 130% on it. And even Baidu, we're up almost 50% on that too. So it's just kind of nice to see that. And by the way, there are actually many arguments that you can make against Chinese stocks that I would say are totally fair, especially if you talk about their VIE structures, how that makes them more risky of a holding as opposed to domestic players where you have more rights as a shareholder. But, some people were just kind of, I would say, like targeting me on a more personal level instead of just talking about the stock and kind of calling me dumb or other things like that for choosing to invest in these stocks. So I'm just happy to see them perform well now, thankfully, because I probably won't get as many of those comments now. Like I always say, the vast majority of you guys leave the nicest comments. So I'm not saying that in the general sense. I'm just saying that there's like a few people that would do things like that. But anyway, point being that I'm happy to see those performing so well. And I'm also happy to see Google, by the way, up 57%, along with some of our other biggest holdings that are all performing just so incredibly well too. Out of Out of our biggest holdings, they're doing very well. So it's great to see that. Turning over to the single digit gainers though, like I said before, we are finally in the green on Pfizer. Not sure how long that's going to last because it's been such a volatile kind of stock, a bad performer over the year. But they recently made some a drug pricing deal with the Trump administration, and investors seem to really like that. And like I said before, this was a stock that was just so heavily beaten down to where the valuation and the dividend were at crazy levels. It was just such an obvious buy to me. And thankfully now it's looking like it's finally climbing. So we'll see how long that lasts, but it's a good sign. And besides that, though, I can tell you right away that Realty Income, Vici Properties, Duke Energy, and Federal Realty, all at around 5% or less gains, are going to be clear targets for me to buy more of in the coming months, especially these REITs that I just think the market is slow moving on. Investors don't seem to realize, in my opinion, that interest rates are now going to be coming down in the coming year. And if the economy holds up, which I know is not guaranteed, far from it, but if it does, the lowering of interest rates should turn into a pretty big tailwind for REITs. And I wouldn't be surprised at all if they really start to take off soon. So my goal right now is to keep buying as much of these REIT stocks, my favorite ones, as I can while I feel that they are still cheap and still paying out these really big dividends, because I'm not sure how long that's going to last. And the same goes for these in the negative portion of the portfolio, especially American Tower and Federal Realty, both of those being REITs. And the fact that I'm negative on them means I got to go out and buy a lot more of them, especially since they're smaller positions. But also Tyson Foods and even Bristol Myers Squibb look pretty attractive at these levels too. All of them just small dividends, small valuations, big dividends, and they're still relatively small positions in my portfolio. So the fact that we're negative on them means I got to go out and buy more of them. So definitely clear targets throughout the rest of this year. I think I'll be buying more of those. And even Adobe and C3 are not bad choices here at these levels either, but I'm just not as confident in those companies and their stocks as I am in the other ones I mentioned before too. So they're not as big of targets, but they're ones that I'll keep my eye on. Okay, with all of that said though, I did deposit another fresh $100 into the account for this new month, which brings our total up to $34.80, so $3,480, leaving us with a cash ratio of around 14%. Let me know though, guys, if you have any thoughts or questions down below. I'd love to hear from you. This is, of course, meant to be a more community-driven account, so I'm always looking to take your feedback and suggestions whenever you have them for me, especially on Discord, where, like I said before, we can chat and we can have deeper conversations about all these topics. But for now, I thank you so much for all of your support, my friends. It means the world to me. I hope you're all doing well out there, and I will catch you in the next one. All right, take care, everybody. Bye-bye.